for all New Zealanders. Kia ora, Madam Speaker.
I just remind members not to bring the Speaker into it because it's becoming quite prevalent in the House. I call the Honourable Jackie Dean.
Madam Speaker, it is a pleasure to follow the contribution by that last member who seems to personify the new Greens New Zealand First-led Labour government, which is increasingly, after only 5 weeks, one of a tone of just sheer arrogance. Get used to it, she said from her lofty heights. Get used to us. Well, that's arrogant. Ian Lees-Galloway, in question time today, saying to Honourable Amy Adams, well, if you'd played nicely and if you'd been nice to me, I might have listened to your SOP around paid parental leave. All you had to do was just do it nicely and we might have listened to you. Well, that sounds like arrogance to me. But the Speaker, who has just resumed her speech, what capped it off for me, Madam Speaker, was the parallel universe she inhabits, where she goes around New Zealand and farmers are welcoming a Greens, New Zealand First, Labour-led government. Yeah, bring them to me. I will talk to them because I have never met any of them, and I can tell the Speaker, Madam Speaker, that I have spent the last glorious week in my own electorate of Waitaki, clearly and undisputably the most beautiful electorate in New Zealand. I can say that in front of the new chums, because it is. And in that beautiful week last week, where I met up with a number of both members who are very keen to have a yarn about the new normal for us in the National Party, and to talk about their hopes for the future, but also to talk about their fears, their very real fears about what a Greens New Zealand First Labour-led government will mean for them. So it might have been the vintner that I met just out of Alexandra, who grows very successfully grapes for some pretty good brands, wine labels around New Zealand, who said to me as I went into her small home where she showed me some of her beautiful product and some beautiful muffins, thank you very much, she said, I don't know what I'm going to do. If this government brings in the minimum wage of $20 an hour, I don't know if I can keep my vineyard going. She's a small business, and it's she and her husband. Now, the Honourable Shane Jones mocks. The Honourable Shane Jones laughs when I say that. I invite the Honourable Shane Jones to go down to Airport Road, just out of Alexandra, pop into Immigrants Vineyard. Yes, these people are Dutch. They're very nice people too. And tell them why he is scoffing at their fears about raising the minimum wage having an impact on their business. And it's not just raising the minimum wage having an impact on their small business. And to the listeners at home, if I may address them directly, the Honourable Shane Jones is still mocking as I am talking about the real experiences that are being told to me by my constituents who are small business people. He mocks, he calls them rich, he calls them the rich getting richer. Well, how about the professional person who runs an office? They hire something around 19 staff, and this person is saying, you know, they raise the minimum wage. I don't know if I can take school leavers on anymore. I just simply don't know whether we can afford it. That's not me speaking. This is small business speaking directly to us about their fears coming out of this government. No, not making it up at all. So let's turn to the farmers and their fears about the impacts of this government on farming. I had several meetings last week with irrigators. I met with a representative of the Manuhia Irrigation Company. Now, they have a proposal to raise the Manuhia Dam, improve water quality, improve environmental outcomes, improve outcomes for the community, improve outcomes for their farming, they have been working for years and years and years on this proposal to augment and improve their existing irrigation company. It's not a new initiative, it's an existing irrigation company. They have been working with the Crown Investment Company and, luckily enough, have got a commitment from the Minister that the support will be maintained for them. But they fear for the future, because this commitment only relates to stage 2. There's a stage 3. What about stage 3? What about if this government pulls out from supporting irrigation, which has all these environmental, social, economic bottom lines? What about if the Crown pulls out from them? What happens to that 6-7 years of earnest work by all the farmers and the Farming Committee? What happens to those families and those livelihoods? What happens to that little corner of New Zealand who relies on water for its economic sustainability? Well, I'll tell you what's going to happen. Irrigation is going to become unaffordable. Those farming families who have been on the land for generations, who've gone from mining privileges and are transitioning to the RMA framework for water, who have been doing their best for their families, best for the farming, best for their farming endeavours, well, they're just going to shut up shop. I don't know what the land will become, but it won't be productive. What does that do? What does that do to New Zealand's economy? And that is what this government has to answer. And so the Honourable Shane Jones, who is still chipping away across the House, needs to get up and tell this House what is he going to do to maintain economic sustainability in the regions, in those regions that need water. And it's not just Central Otago, it's not just North Otago, it's not just the Hunter Downs Irrigation Company who are facing the same sort of challenges. Without water, there is not the level of productivity. What does productivity bring? What does water bring? It brings jobs, that's what it brings. It brings people shopping in the supermarket, that's what it brings. And what is Shane Jones' answer to that? $1 billion a year. Well, let's be having it, Minister. Let's be having a slice of that $1 billion into the Manuhira Irrigation Company, into Hunter Downs. I'm sure colleagues across this side of the House could stand up and talk about any number of initiatives that will benefit. Is the Minister now calling it a pocket of money? What's he calling it? Say again? Say again? I invite the Minister. He's been chipping across the House. Oh, 1 billion trees. You see, there's another thing. 1 billion trees. Obviously, more than you can count on the fingers of both hands. Because the thing is, with those 1 billion trees, we're already planting half of that. So does the billion include that half or not? And what about the land? Is the land available for those 1 billion trees? And what about the workers? Are the workers available for those 1 billion trees? And what about when they have to be paid $20 an hour, minimum wage? Does that become economically sustainable? There is so little substance to that proposal, it's laughable. But here's the rub. It is important. It is important to my region. It is important to my colleagues' region. It is important to every region throughout New Zealand that we have decent policies coming from this government. They've had 5 weeks in government. We can put that on the fingers of one hand. They've had 5 weeks. It is not good enough anymore to say things like, we're looking forward to getting to know the sector. I'm sorry, that is not good enough. These people are in government now. We need answers. My farmers need answers, and they need them sooner rather than later, because I tell you what's happening in the regions. There is a high level of anxiety, uncertainty. There is going to be a lack of investment in that very infrastructure on behalf of the private sector that New Zealand needs to continue to thrive. Well, here it is, folks. You ain't going to get it from them. Bring it on, is what I say.
Madam Speaker.
Just before I call the next speaker, can I just refer the members to Speaker's rulings from Mr Jeff Braybock that interjection should be rare, reasonable and, if possible, witty, and just like a parrot, is not particularly witty. Can I call the Honourable Jenny Salisa?
Madam Speaker, thank you so much. May I